Welcome to the Filmistines, a double feature podcast. Join us as we unravel the interwoven experience of the continuous conversation of cinema. If you like what you hear, support us on Patreon at patreon.com/filmistines. Come right in, come request a film, grab some popcorn, sit back, and get ready to join the 100-year conversation. This is the Filmistines, where movies are more than just entertainment, they're an experience. And welcome back to another episode of the Filmistines. Thank you guys for joining us today. Today I am joined by my recently deceased friend, Lucy.
Hello, everyone.
Remember, you can join us every Monday and Friday for brand new episodes of the Filmistines on all of our free feeds, and every other Wednesday on patreon.com/filmistines for Patreon exclusive episodes, like our recent Patreon exclusive episode where we discussed the two Aladdin films from 1992 and 2019. And why we came to the conclusion that one is clearly better than the other. It's the live action one. The live action one's way better than the original. Some other recent episodes include Insomnia, The Prestige, Snowpiercer, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and Beetlejuice. Remember to leave nice comments, thoughts, and ideas on our Patreon as well. Come subscribe. Come request a movie. Go rate us on Apple Podcasts too. And if you're listening on YouTube, how about you subscribe? But we appreciate all the support. Thank you guys very much.
Are you stressed and filled with anxiety like I am? Maybe in a bit of pain from that car accident you had a few years ago? Well, the sponsor of today's episode, Hempville CBD, has us covered. They have the highest quality products created by chemists and doctors. Hempville carries everything from CBD to THC dispensary grade without those despicable dispensary prices. Order your Delta 8, 9 edibles and vapes along with the THCA flower and get free shipping when you spend $50 or more at hempvillecbd.com. Check out the link in the description for more details.
But today we will be talking about Tim Burton's 1988 film, Beetlejuice, the original Beetlejuice. And I'm just going to say one thing we've all been thinking for the last 40 years almost.
40?
Why didn't Michael Keaton play the Joker in Tim Burton's Batman? Why did we have to make a boring-ass Batman with a boring-ass performance out of Michael Keaton, with an okay performance out of Jack Nicholson, of course, too, but we had a Joker right here all along? I know it would have been maybe more of the same in some way, but that's what I mostly walked away with after watching Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice from 1998 is a boring-ass movie that tips its toes in some maybe fun ideas around the inability to move on, to want to have some sort of permanence in your life or afterlife. The gentrification conflict is kind of funny when we're dealing with two ghosts who don't really know how to be ghosts. They're freshly deceased, so you gotta give them a break. But they're not tricksters. They're not evil in any way. They don't want to stir anything up.
Right, they haven't seen The Exorcist 160 whatever times, Beetlejuice said.
Yeah, I don't know what that was. I thought that was weird. Especially maybe because it doesn't age so well, because Exorcist itself doesn't age all that well.
Yeah, that's true.
Because that specifically reminded me of like this schoolyard talk of, I've put, 1,000 hours in Pokemon, kind of having this kind of justification of your expertise in the matter. But similar to Beetlejuice, I found Beetlejuice, the 1988 rendition, running into similar lanes of just, why am I supposed to care? What's the point? And why are so many people so high on this first film? I don't know, man. I've been in the wrong all my life on this. I've never liked this film, but I'm very curious how you feel about the original Beetlejuice.
No, I'm definitely right there with you. Like I said in our Tim Burton ranking exclusive episode, go listen to it, and our previous episode on Beetlejuice, I've always found this movie kind of meh. I found it really boring and pretty hard to get through, so it definitely has various pacing issues for me. And I like what you said about it having similar vibes to Beetlejuice, because it does have this chaotic plot structure, and has a lot of moving pieces, similar to the sequel. Are we following Adam and Barb's journey? Are we following the deets? Are we waiting for Beetlejuice to be summoned? Are we exploiting the supernatural? Like, whoa, what are we doing here? Although I will say this one feels more grounded than the sequel. I do like this aspect of the afterlife and the fun it has with it, especially with such a dark topic of what happens after you die. But we don't focus on that enough, at least the fun part of it. Like having this lobby and making everyone wait in lines and having these confusing rules about what's supposed to happen. The film has a lot of tones. It's trying to be serious, but it's also trying to be funny. But with limiting Beetlejuice so much, we're also trying to be suspenseful. So I'm not sure how I found that, if it flowed well or not, because the serious bits were too serious with Adam and Barb, and the humorous bits were hilarious. I mean, that's probably my favorite part. The humor is very slapstick, it's crude. Beetlejuice has this sleazy behavior that I'm here for. But again, like you said, why do we care? Why do we care about these characters? And although these characters are memorable, I'll give them that. They aren't lovable, and they're pretty flat, with the exception of Beetlejuice, of course. I think he's the star of the film, even though he only appears in the film for 13 minutes. And half of that time, he's not even being Beetlejuice, this funny man. He's a snake or a carousel or these other forms. But the film is highly stylized. I enjoy that. It's very charming. And some of these elements that at first I found kind of odd and dated, I can now appreciate, especially after seeing the sequel. I will say that. The score is obviously iconic and phenomenal, fantastic. The soundtracks, these songs stay in your head for days. And I also want to give a shout out for the originality of Beetlejuice. I'm not sure what inspired Beetlejuice, but it didn't come from a book, at least that I know of. It didn't come from a game or a previous movie or anything. So I really appreciate the originality of this character. And I also appreciate the writing behind the movies, and maybe overall Tim Burton movies. He tends to have this play on words, and I'm very fond of it. I like when the dad mispronounces or misreads or whatever the word deceased into diseased, and it's hilarious. That part cracks me up. It's very similar to one of his scenes in A Corpse Bride, and Victor's like, I need questions now. And someone's like, answers. You mean you need answers? He's like, oh yeah, thank you. And just how we hear words and we know what people mean, but they're saying it wrong. And I think Tim Burton tends to do that in his films, and I like it. I like when I can catch him. But does this film stand the test of time? Because it's very beloved. I mean, when people find out that I'm not the biggest fan of Beetlejuice, it's like I just said a cuss word, or like I just defended your mama. But it's funny because we've established that I'm a pretty big fan of 80s films. But this movie lacks some of the traditional things I like about 80s films, with the exception, of course, of Beetlejuice and his language.
Yeah, this film reminds me a little bit of Memento, Chris Nolan's early film, where we have this idea, we run with it, we make the movie ultimately about it. But Memento's Achilles Heel is the premise, which innately has this momentum to at least drive the film. But in Beetlejuice, the Achilles Heel is a character that was obviously designed before the film, and this film was completely designed around him. And it's kind of like what you were saying, it's just ultimately this waiting game of when Beetlejuice is going to pop up, and we're all going to celebrate and throw popcorn at the TV when he does something crude. And it's a very lovable thing, and memorable, of course. I think that's clearly the only reason people remember this film. But after the monkey dances, I don't know if it's just a me problem. I'm just left with a so what? What does Beetlejuice matter? He plays a funny role, a bio-exorcist. I love the terminology. It's low-hanging fruit, but it's awesome.
Oh, I don't think it's low-hanging at all.
Well, good. The salesman-like nature to him is awesome. We set up this infomercial sort of stuff. Lawyer, cheap lawyer, mortgage man. We have this wonderful setup of a hook where our characters are, pulling on that hook. The bobber's going down. We're being teased with it. He lives in a diorama, which is obviously very cool. And like you said, the production design in a lot of ways is awesome. I love the scene. It's probably my favorite section, visually at least, when they start digging his grave and they're cutting through the styrofoam and your other building polymers.
No, I'm right there with you, and I definitely understand this element of keeping a character off screen to build suspense.
Less is more.
Definitely, we love it in horror movies, but does it make sense with a character like Beetlejuice? In this type of film, is Tim simply waiting to show Beetlejuice on screen to make his moments more impactful? I'm not sure, because I did have a great time with him on screen. Would I have had a great time with him if he was on screen for, let's say, double the time, 26 minutes? I'm sure I would have, because he's such a great character, and he's played very well by Michael Keaton. I mean, this character, he's raunchy, he's nasty. This man is kissing people, groping people, he's groping himself and making honking noises. I mean, he's truly disgustingly amazing. So I don't understand this element of less is more. And he pretty much proved it in the sequel, although the sequel, Beetlejuice, is not as raunchy and is not as nasty, but he was still as memorable and as lovable, and you still wanted more of him. Is that the sole reason Beetlejuice is as beloved as he is?
We get a slightly different sticking point from the sequel, where we landed in family land of death bringing us closer together. Here we get this element of coexisting.
Not till the very, 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 very end.
To the point that it gives the impression that now Lydia's going to be raised by ghosts.
I didn't see that coming.
That was a weird interaction at the end there. I don't like it.
No.
And I think it's really weird that the parents are like, looks like Lydia got an A and whatever. The movie tries to fool you in thinking that there was a possibility that these two families could coexist. Unless we are running with the Dietz cashing in on the Maitlands, sort of emphasizing this gentrification thing we have. I don't love the hand of gentrification that we're dealt. This bourgeois family moving in, somehow making a profit on the locals, and the explicit, I guess, implication of Charles Dietz buying the town and making it a tourist town of sorts. But I suppose Lydia is our main character. She's the bridge between these two families. Beetlejuice falls in love with her. What did you get out of Lydia?
Before I tell you my thoughts on Lydia, I want to give you my thought real quick on Charles's character. Or I guess my lack of thought, because I didn't understand his character at all. I thought he was going to be this kind of family man, getting out of town, wanting to settle down, loves birds, just wants to coexist with his daughter and his wife. But then we get bits and pieces of him about wanting to buy the whole town, and then at the end he's like supportive of Delia's exploitation of these ghosts. He just confuses me. I don't understand his character or the point of his character. I could see it being more of Delia's and Otho's idea, making money out of these ghosts, but then Charles is in on it. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of his character and how it was laid out, because I don't want to put the blame on the whole family. But as far as Lydia, I love the concept of her character. I like that she's this teenager. She's disconnected from the world. She doesn't know how to relate to her parents. She's got this new stepmom. But we don't see any of those conflicts on why she is like this. And she sort of develops. She sort of has this growth, but it doesn't feel natural, and it just feels so weird to me. Because in the beginning of the movie, she's suicidal. She's writing her note saying she doesn't want to be here anymore, blah, blah, blah. And by the end of the film, she's dancing, she's happy, she's excited about life.
She runs out of the schoolhouse all weird looking.
Yes.
I'm
yes.
like, I didn't like you to begin with, but I really don't like you now.
And this growth almost clashes. I wish we would have just stuck to making her this character that doesn't grow and doesn't develop, and maybe, I don't know, she commits suicide at the end and she's happy with her ghost parents because she couldn't stand life anymore. I kind of would have liked that. Because I can't seem to grasp why there was so much closeness between her, Adam, and Barb.
Well, I guess it's because she's emo and already dead on the inside. I think she says something to that point. There is almost a message in that you'd be happier dead.
Almost. It's very eerie, for sure. But then why even have the parents?
I mean, I feel you. They feel like an afterthought just to make an hour-and-a-half movie to give some conflict between an alive family and a dead. Obviously, just to give runway for your bio-exorcist to get rid of the living. And then how do you perpetuate the conflict? The living all of a sudden wants to make money out of a haunted house. The story kind of falls into place, I guess. And I'm not going to say I dislike it, the premise, in that way. But our characters, I think, kind of suck. Delia obviously has some really great moments, especially with her minion, Otho. And Catherine O'Hara's obviously gotten way better with age. She's become a great performer with age. But yeah, Charles is this milquetoast guy who's trying to get away from New York, from his rich life, bird watching, but then all of a sudden wants to buy the town. It's just like, okay.
Yeah, he doesn't want her to change the house, but then she changes the house anyway. He doesn't even put his foot down.
We're missing a lot of character moments, any kind of meaningful conflict. There was even kind of this meta moment of, is this really happening on screen, when we had Lydia running up and down to the attic back downstairs to help communicate between the ghost and the alive. And she's just like, they don't want to come down. It's just this.
She's making shit up.
Yeah, like, you're talking to a child, you're talking to your kid, and they're making shit up. You don't believe them. They're obviously lying. Like, why are we even doing this? Like, why are we wasting all this time? Kind of thing. That's the vibe I'm getting out of Beetlejuice. Until we get Beetlejuice the man, the juice man on screen. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is why we're here. It's an unbelievably boring movie.
Yeah, and to the point of the characters. And Adam, although I do like how naive he is, his character's not crazy developed. He doesn't go through any kind of lessons. And also with Barb, I could say the same thing, although she's not as naive as he is. And they're a bit too passive. That Adam's great moment at the end of the film when he saves Lydia from Beetlejuice and has this heroic moment, it's not impactful. It's forced.
Yeah, there's almost this cinematic suggestion of Barb and Adam being better parents to Lydia, because that's where we land.
Right.
But that's not throughout the film. And he's
Right.
the hero.
Right.
Adam is. And it's just like, I didn't know any of these characters had relationships.
Right.
Outside of the so-called marriage and the parental thing.
Yeah, it was a very forced character moment. Because it feels a bit forced with Delia too. Which I love her look, by the way. She's probably my favorite character besides Beetlejuice. I don't even want, I mean, he's on a whole nother level that I don't even want to put them in the same boat. Because she's very cool. She's very eccentric. I like her eyeliner. I like how she does her hair. I love her aesthetic. I like how eccentric she is. She's over the top. But at the end, we almost seem to give her this character moment where she wants to approach her daughter, but then backs up because there's that little weird dude in between them that was gonna marry Beetlejuice and Lydia. So she doesn't approach her daughter, and I think there's a giant hole in the middle too. So it almost feels half-assed. like, oh wait, I have to make some of these characters grow to some degree. But again, it just feels very forced to me. I will say my favorite scene is just right after your favorite scene. They summon Beetlejuice, the juice is loose, he's out, and he's just this crazy character. I can't emphasize how much I love his character. We're in the model. I mean, his theme is heard throughout the entire time. This man spits in his jacket and says, I'll save that for later. Like, what are you fucking doing right now? It's disgusting. And then he scares him off, naturally. Who wouldn't be terrified by this man? And then he shifts and is now dressing exactly like Adam. And that part cracked me up.
Yeah.
I mean, he's trying to just make him stay anyway whatsoever. He's like, man, me and you are simpatico right now. Sandworms, am I right? And oh my gosh, it's so funny. And of course, they figure out a way to go back home, and he's still there talking. And the way he runs up that hill, I mean, it's hilarious. It had me cracking up. I just wish even a third of that movie had that same energy. Because it's so crazy that I could be loving and having such a great time and laughing my ass off 1 minute and then being bored out of my mind the next few minutes.
When I think of the character Beetlejuice, my mind goes to a short film where we had this really fun 15-20 minute short film completely surrounding the character Beetlejuice. And it got traction. It got some money, and one thing led to the next, and a film was able to be made.
Because all the cool aspects of the film are Beetlejuice related. We get these really distinct visuals when we're near or around him. Everything tends to have this exaggeration, a lot of angles, a lot of movement. The energy around him is crazy.
He's the only character who draws anything out of other characters. Fear, mostly, I guess.
Yeah, and he's the only one that has his theme.
Writing.
The writing. I also, surprisingly, really enjoyed the introduction. It's a bit long, about 2 minutes maybe, but it's got this great score and this panning of the town. And even the names, like the director, the actors, whatever, all the credits, don't have the best font, but they have this glow to them behind them, and I like it. It's like they're ghosts. We see the town, we see the brightness of that bridge house. I don't know what you would describe that. It's not a barn. It's just a little shed looking thing to cover the bridge. I don't know. But that's cool. It really stands out. And then we settle in on the miniature, and the whole time you're like, wait, was this all a miniature? And then you're fucking amazed.
Yeah, no, the miniature is awesome, and it's a great tie-in to what's in the attic. And we see that echoed in Beetlejuice, the sequel, and it's even cooler there.
I didn't notice it was a miniature there. How did you feel about the practical effects and the stop motion? Do they hold up? Like when the statues come to life, the sandworm, of course, or even when the shrimps come to life and out of their cocktail bowls.
I mean, here and there it looks really good, but also here and there it looks really cheap and maybe a little dated.
Like the football ghosts?
The football ghosts, yeah, I don't know. They're kind of a funny bit, I guess.
At the end, when they're on the staircase with Lydia dancing.
I don't like the end at all.
Yeah, I don't either.
From the moment things are resolved with Beetlejuice, I think the next scene is her running out of school. From there to the end, I don't like it. I don't want it in front of me.
I'm right there with you on the end. The end is terrible. We're left with Adam and Barb basically parenting Lydia. And then she has this weird performance piece where she's mouthing the words to the song, Shake Sonora, which is a very sexual song, by the way. Not sure what Tim Burton meant with that. We have these football players on the stairs. They look awful. She looks awful floating up there. And then Charles is reading this second book, I don't know, pamphlet on the living and the dead, harmonious lifestyle and peaceful coexisting handbook. And then I was very confused on what themes I was supposed to get out of this movie. What was the hidden meaning to this film that I just didn't get?
It's a confusing movie on that point, no doubt. But it's a great example of a character driving the legacy of a film. And it reminds me of how people will say they don't like a film because they don't like how it ended. Everything else is fine up to that point, maybe great, and then it ends and they're like, that was garbage movie. We sort of have a similar train of thought here, I think, with a really wonderful character and wonderful performance out of Michael Keaton. And the film's going to be forever remembered with a completely underbaked, forgettable plot.
And now, after watching this film, finishing the movie, one of my biggest questions was, why are Adam and Barb not in the sequel? Was it ever addressed and I missed it?
Well, apparently the Maitlands found a loophole. I don't know if we know too much information on the loopholes. It sounds like it's just a cop-out to allow a sequel film to happen without the Maitlands involved. That's fine and all. But we did introduce this really interesting thing in the second film, Beetlejuice, where Jeremy, I believe his name was trying to get a second chance at life.
Yeah, the love interest.
Astrid's love interest, Jenna Ortega. That brings up kind of an interesting point, though. We had this couple, Barb and Adam, who are apparently much better at being parents than Lydia's current parents. What a great addition to this potentially great conflict of living and dead people occupying the same space, and one trying to kick out the other, and then maybe coming to a point of coexistence. But have the dead, at some point, is it central? I'm not sure, to the plot, bringing up the question of, well, maybe we kill or displace the living, and then we can take Lydia and be her parents, and be better parents, in fact. Prove that point that you're better parents. You don't got to work very hard for that point.
True.
We saw that happen, very quickly at the very end of the movie. We didn't even question it earlier on.
You can be a great parent without leaving your house.
But challenging the audience on this honeymoon-esque couple who are much better parents, but that couple wanting to, in some way, kill, to trade their position, is maybe a fun idea. But we know that was 40 years ago. Tim has had a lot of time to marinate on the idea. All right, man. Well, thank you for watching this movie. Maybe the last time I ever see it, and talking about it here today.
You're welcome. We'll probably see it at some point at my mom's house because she loves this movie.
Do you have a budget guess?
I'm going with 10 million.
It says here that it was 15 million.
Ooh.
So you're somewhat in the ballpark. And it went on to make $84.5 million. So it did very, very good in the box office.
Okay, good job, Tim. This was his second directorial debut.
Yeah, I think Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure was before this.
Okay.
With 1.39 million people on Letterboxd. They weighed in at a 3.8.
Whoa. That's pretty high. That's pretty high. I'm giving this a 2. If it weren't for Beetlejuice, it would definitely be a 1.
No, I totally feel you. It is almost a bad movie in my book. It's a solid 1.5 for me. If Beetlejuice mattered in the grand scheme of the film, maybe I could inch it up if it was a little more sensible. I will say it was kind of a funny thread that Lydia says something to the extent that I must be dreaming when she first meets the Maitlands. Interesting tie, maybe, to the sequel.
Interesting.
But the word dream, see, we're grasping at straws here. We are looking for anything for it to make sense. To tie these things together, to build some bigger picture, some texture. It's just not there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It did win Best Makeup at the 61st Academy Awards. Why? I don't know. For 88, is that a good thing? Because I've never been sold on Beetlejuice's makeup. And even in the new film, it looks exactly the same as the 88 film. So I'm a little bit more sold on it because that's just a style choice now. Not necessarily we didn't have great makeup technology.
Yeah, it feels cheap.
Yeah.
And I think the cheapness comes through in a really great way at best when we're on the diorama.
Yeah.
Where we have the foam and the different layers of polymers and whatever the fuck dioramas are made out of. It's very cool, but full stop there. It's kind of...
All right, you showed it. Yeah.
But yeah, man, thank you for talking about this movie here today, and thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Filmistines. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Remember, we post every Monday and Friday with brand new episodes of the Filmistines on all of our free feeds, and every other Wednesday on patreon.com/Filmistines for Patreon exclusive episodes, like our recent Patreon exclusive episode where we talked about the 2 Aladdin films from 1992 and 2019. Our next episode on all free feeds will be on the 2024 film Borderlands. Maybe you've heard of it.
Ooh.
Are you excited to see Borderlands?
I'm excited for Borderlands. I've been waiting to see Jamie Lee Curtis, Kevin Hart, the girl from Tar. I like this cast.
It's kind of like when you're walking through Walmart or Target or whatever and you stroll past the like snack cake aisle and you get whatever's on sale. You know? This week we're getting fudge rounds, you know?
Yeah. Does it make sense? I don't know. Is it cohesive? I don't know, but I like it.
But please look forward to that. Remember to leave nice comments, thoughts, and ideas on our Patreon as well. Come subscribe. Come request a movie. Go rate us on Apple Podcasts and go subscribe to us on YouTube. We appreciate all the support. Thank you guys very much. But until next time, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Filmistines. Thanks for tuning in and joining us on our cinematic journey. We hope you enjoyed the discussion and gained some new insights and perspectives on the world of movies. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, especially Patreon at patreon.com/Filmistines, and follow us on social media for more film-related content. We love hearing from our listeners, so if you have any feedback, suggestions, movie recommendations, or book recommendations, please feel free to reach out to us. Until next time, keep watching and keep loving the magic of movies. This is the Filmistines, signing off.